Hi guys, welcome back to our IPCON-HDMI video series. In today's video, this is part 3, we will take a look at the built-in web server GUI that comes with the IP controller. Stay tuned. Okay guys, so I've opened up a web browser and simply put, I'm going to enter the IP address of my IP controller into the web address bar. And just remember that your PC must be selected or must be set up at least to the same IP range. So because I'm in my studio and everything is already pre-configured, I am in the .40 range on my PC that we are actually recording everything on. We can pretty much just type in the IP address of the controller. Now, if you remember previously, in our previous video, we set the controller up to be in 192.168.40.101. So that is the IP address of the controller itself. See, I made a little error there, so 168, so 192.168.40.101. So when you press enter, it automatically loads up the GUI interface, and the username for the unit is admin, and there's no password required, so then you can just log into the unit. Right, so that brings you to the main screen. So that's the main home screen for the GUI interface. And on this main home screen, you can already see which cameras we have connected. So as per our previous videos, camera 1 and camera 2 is what we've connected as 172 and 173. It also shows us that both these cameras are now in Visca IP mode, or a Visca UDP IP mode. Now I'm going to come back to the screen in just a moment. Let's navigate through the left side. I can also search for a device, so I can search, and then I can search for Onvif or NDI. These devices are, or these protocols are capable of being automatically searched and populated on the network. So we're going to come back to the NDI in just a moment. I can then also manually add a camera. So if I press add manual, it'll then give me the options to manually add the camera into the system. And I'm going to come back to this in just a moment as well. Okay, again, I can in each line select that camera, or I can then edit that camera directly from here. So if you had made a mistake in either an IP address or the port number or anything like that, you can actually come into the web GUI and can basically edit that setup. And that way you can also edit anything else or any other camera that you want to. If, let's say you've got the camera in TCP IP mode, but you want to change it to NDI, you can. So you can easily change an existing camera very quickly from here. The second tab at the top brings us to the settings for the IP controller itself. First up would be our network settings, and you can see these are still the settings that we set it up previously in the previous video. So our camera is in .40.101 range, IP controller, is .40.101 range. And our net mask and our gateway is still the same, plus our DNS addresses as we set them up. From here, we can also run firmware upgrades, so always keep a lookout on websites for any firmware upgrades on the device. We can also do a reset, so that's basically a factory reset. We can also just reboot the device. From here, we can also import a configuration file or export a configuration file. So if we export the file, any settings that we've done on the IP controller will get exported into a file. So once you press export, you can save that as normal onto your desktop. Or then alternatively, let's say you had to format the controller, or the controller was formatted, or you want to even maybe copy the same settings onto another IPCON-HDMI, you can always just go and import that settings directly from here. So you press browse, load the file, and then press import, and it'll basically bring all the settings back. We also then have a calibration menu. That is basically just to calibrate the IP controller's PTZ joystick, as well as the rocker switches on the side. So you can then select which one of the units you want to do. So when you press manual calibration, it'll ask you to basically just push the system or push the joystick into those directions to just calibrate it again. Lastly is the version menu, and that gives us the hardware, software, and the web versions of the firmware of the IPCON. Our next tab here is our custom tab. And this is where you would set up specific commands, as we mentioned in part 1 as well, for the F1, 2, 3, and 4 buttons. So custom 1 is essentially button F1, custom 2 is button F2, custom 3, F3, and custom 4 is F4. Now for each of these, you can set up an HTTP trigger, a TCP trigger with a command, or UDP, or you could also recall a super preset. So the super presets are basically the scene recalls. Those we will discuss in an upcoming video as well. So if you had programmed those previously, you could also just basically set them up like this. So let's say I want to recall scene number 1, and I want to recall preset number 1 for that scene. This is now programmed into F1. So whenever I press the F1 button, it'll quickly recall my scenes that I've previously set up. That means I don't have to press scene and then the button and then or the number and then enter. I could just press F1 and it'll automatically recall that scene very quickly. So you can set up 4 of those as well, and as I mentioned, all the other different protocols for some different custom commands or custom triggers. For now, I'm going to come back to the device menu and show you a couple of things in here. The first of which is to then edit an existing camera. So let's say I want to change my camera number 2, which is an NDI capable camera, back to NDI protocol. It's quite simple. I'm going to click the edit button on the right, select the protocol, change it to NDI, and I want to change my port number, which is 5961. And when I now press enter, press save, that will automatically now have saved that camera now as NDI protocol with a new port number, but still on the same IP address, and I would still be able to control that camera now based on that edit. Okay, let's say we want to automatically add a camera to the system. You'll see I've just changed the Visca camera number 2 back to Visca so that I can search for the NDI protocol. And I'm going to press on the search button. We're going to press on NDI, and it will now search the network for any NDI devices. You'll see I do have a couple of NDI devices on my network, and I'm basically interested in seeing camera number 3 or camera number 2, which is IP173. You'll see here it is an NDI HX camera. I can then select that camera and I can change which channel I want to add it. So if I wanted this to be camera 100, I could just change that to number 100. But for now, we'll put this to camera number 3 and I'll press add. You'll see it says success and go out of the search menu. And now I've added the camera with IP173, which is the overhead camera above me. That camera now is actually twice on the system. Once is a Visca camera and once is an NDI camera. So you are capable of doing that as well. Let's say I wanted to change this, like I mentioned earlier, I want to change this port or change the IP address. I can again just press edit and change it. Okay, if I wanted to manually add a camera, I can also just click on add manual and then go through the same steps as I showed previously and basically add the camera. Manually select the camera number from 8 to 256 and then change the protocol for the camera, IP address, port number. You can ignore the RTSP URL and RTSP username and password for now. We will discuss what those 2 functions do in an upcoming video as well. And you can then press save and it will then put the camera into the next camera number that you have selected. Okay, that brings us to the end of the overview of the GUI interface of the IPCON-HDMI. Please like and subscribe to the video and stay tuned for part 4, where we will take a look at the HDMI preview function that's available on the IPCON-HDMI. Till next time.